Welcome to the first hack of the day on scaling circular design and circular business models. My name is Neela Malwani, and I lead our UK circularity offering for consumer at Deloitte. And we're really excited to partner with BFC on this fantastic event. It's my second time here, and it was really great last year, so I'm really excited to have an engaging panel, but then also have really interactive breakout sessions. There's some of my Deloitte colleagues around the room. They'll be taking notes and scribing during the day, so feel free to find them and reach out if you have any specific things you want us to include in the takeaways. When we move to the breakout rooms, I'll have them raise their hands so you know who those are. But before we do that, I'll very happily introduce our first panel and welcome our panelists to the stage alongside our moderator. So Yasmin Jones-Henry, Financial Times writer and co-founder of the Lab E20, is our moderator for today's session. Welcome, and really excited to have you here. Beth Wharfe from Burberry, Bilgehan from Blackhorse, Josephine from SOJO, and Rosie from Mulberry. We'll be talking today about scaling these solutions, focusing especially on the S and the G. And without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Yasmin. Thanks.
Much appreciated. So, I am a Financial Times journalist with a specialism in ESG topics concerning fashion and circular design. So I'm properly geeking out that we have been blessed with a cross-section, I would argue, of what the British fashion industry looks like on a given day. We've got heritage brands, established businesses, startups, and micro SMEs. So the first topic I'd like to tackle is the G in ESG, all things governance. And most of the dialogue, I'd say for the last sort of 8 years, understandably, has been dominated by Brexit and competitiveness on the international stage. But when we look at what the government needs to do in terms of intervention and support to make sure that we are in step with New York and with Paris and things like EPR legislation, the first question I wanted to ask is around what could we do, what could we ask the government in terms of incentivization to help accelerate this scaling conversation? So I wanted to first bring that to you, Josephine.
Hi, everyone. It's really great to be here today. And I think I am so incredibly motivated by this G part of the conversation, because I think we have all seen the incredible things that a lot of people and citizens are doing. And also we're seeing the movement that is coming about when it comes to brands. But me personally, I've definitely been feeling and have felt that I've seen such incredible things when it comes to the EU and a lot of the sustainable fashion legislation that's moving forward. And I've actually had even investors, if not kind of brands themselves, saying, oh, you guys should go to France. They've got that great repair fund there that means that you can kind of get subsidized money off your repairs, and all these exciting things that are happening, including right to repair, EPR, DPP, etc. And essentially what that led us to think at SOJO was it is great what we're doing in terms of powering repair for brands, trying to embed circularity into the industry, but how can the government be supporting this? And actually today we're launching an initiative called Pledge to Repair, which essentially goes beyond what we're doing at SOJO and the partnerships we have. And it's looking to form a coalition of any and all brands that have repair services to come together to then be able to lobby for legislative change. And that's because I think so often a lot of the stuff that's going on is in pilots or essentially in partnerships. But what really needs to happen is like a consolidation of data reporting, a consolidation of everyone coming around the same kind of mission. And so we're launching Pledge to Repair specifically around hoping for legislative change around repair here in the UK, and hopefully being able to see that more. And I think if we can push the government increasingly to make action, the needle moves far faster than if it didn't. And they really need to take responsibility, and it's definitely a core part of what we want to support.
Thank you. That was a very wholesome answer too. And so my next question, and again, just for transparency, I'm always making the economic case for culture, and I don't just mean what's out on the streets, I mean culture in the boardroom. So Beth, my next question is for you. When we're talking about what we can do in terms of decision makers and the culture, not just in terms of behavioural change for consumers, but we're talking about how we message when we say return on investment and targets. Do you have anything to share in terms of how you feel we can incentivize further this transition from, take, make, waste to made to last through company-wide corporate strategies in terms of supporting the scaling, the acceleration of the scaling of circular business models?
Yeah. So I think at Burberry, we've made a public commitment to embed circular business models. And as part of that, we have Burberry, which is like the set of initiatives around our focus on circularity for products, packaging, and services. We have a complete suite of services that help extend the life of our products. And it's our CEO that's ultimately accountable for our ESG performance, and he chairs our sustainability committee. We have clear KPIs at a C-suite level, but then we also have that sustainability metric linked to our corporate annual bonus for our wider workforce. So we really found that was a great opportunity to kind of drive the culture change that we needed to meet those targets.
That's quite punchy, tying it to performance. I'd like to see that more, actually, on the bottom of your spreadsheets. But anyway, thank you for that answer. So my next question now is moving into diversity in circular business models. And when I say diversity, I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about diversity of shape, size, and types of businesses. And as I mentioned, we have a cross-section here. So leading into it with a slightly tongue-in-cheek term, size matters, when we're talking about circular business models, what might work for a micro SME like SOJO or an SME like Blackhorse Lane might not be the same for a heritage brand or a conglomerate. So what I wanted to ask the panel, going round, please do dial in as you see fit. Could you share with me some of the challenges and some of the solutions that you're kind of going through right now as businesses tackling this? So I think I'm going to go first with you, Han.
Hi, everyone. My name is Han. I'm the founder of Blackhorse Lane Ateliers. We are based in Walthamstow. We are London's craft jeans maker, I would say. But we have many hats. We are manufacturers. We also have a brand. We give lifetime repair guarantee to our jeans. We've been going for 10 years. One of the challenges, we are trying to become a zero-waste company. So what that means is when we make garments, we have lots of offcuts, and we developed this new material, composite material. We work with a British Airways composite engineer, and we managed to get these amazing materials. The reason we got to that route, circularity, very often textile, fashion industry talks about turning textile into textile. Unfortunately, we don't have the infrastructure here. I hope you heard what was happening upstairs. We don't have the infrastructure to turn textiles into textiles. So what happens generally, you send your offcuts to centers where they turn into fibers, into yarn, into fabric, into garment. It comes back, and the carbon footprint of that is enormous. And secondly, when it goes back to textiles, the life cycle of that textile is so short. So we created this composite material where we want to turn it into furniture, where you could use it for 40, 50 years. But we can't turn it in terms of scalability, we can't do it here. So we are in the process of creating our R&D facility within this space so that it is going to be zero carbon footprint to achieve that. So know-how is a challenge. Support from government, zero, niche, nothing.
Are there any
Shall I carry on? Well,
okay, well that's sufficient.
Yeah.
Thank you, Han. And I'm going to bring this to you, Rosie, because obviously when you're talking about a heritage brand, a heritage business, and I know obviously being advocates for this made-to-last ethos is not new to you. I'm interested also upstream in the pipeline when you're talking about the design and the supply chains and the farms. If there's anything you'd like to share from Mulberry's perspective.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Rosie. I'm Head of Sustainability for Mulberry. Thanks so much for having me back this year. So Made to Last is the name that we give to our sustainability strategy, but it's also the ethos that runs through our business since it was founded in 1971. And something that we've been doing for over 35 years is repairing handbags. And we've done that in our own factories in Somerset. And I think that that's really a testament to the luxury industry, that investment in pieces that people want to last forever and ever and hand on to their daughters, their friends, and really kind of investing in that piece that's going to last a lifetime. So that really does sit around the whole business and the whole ethos. We also have product circularity as one of our pillars of our sustainability strategy. So it's a kind of given that this is business as usual at Mulberry. And then when you think about designing for circularity and kind of pushing up through the supply chain as well, 90% of the products that we sell are leather. Leather is a byproduct of the meat industry. That's already a circular talking point. Arguably, that material would go to waste if it wasn't being transformed into beautiful leather and then into beautiful products. And again, leather as a material is super durable. The reason that we are able to repair over 10,000 bags a year in the UK is because we are working with such an amazing material that allows itself to be unpicked and put back together again. So yeah, we certainly look for circularity, not just within the kind of post-product life cycle, but all the way up through the supply chain and our sourcing as well.
So my next question, apologies for I've got frizzy hair, so it's going to friction, what can I do? Is, again, picking up the diversity thread, but also looking at the fact that we can sometimes get locked in our own echo chambers in the boardroom and ivory towers of education. I'm interested in co-design, co-creation as part of scaling circularity conversations. I'd love to hear from anybody on the panel that wants to share. How are you collaborating with and bringing in either the local voices or the international voices in your supply chains or within your network to help you innovate and scale your solutions? Who would like to go first?
Go on, I'll go first.
Go on.
So as I said, we repair over 10,000 bags in the UK, and we're able to do that because we have an incredible lifetime service centre, which is inside one of our carbon neutral factories in Somerset, where I'm normally based, if you can pick up the accent. And we have a really amazing team of craftspeople. There's about 15 of them in total, and they are magicians at picking up a bag, understanding what repair needs to be taken place, taking it apart, replacing zips, or whatever work needs to be done, and then passing it on to the quality inspector at the end of the lifetime service centre, who then packages it up as beautifully as if it was a brand new Bayswater coming off a production line, and off it goes back to the customer. And I think that the really unique thing about that is that we have this community of craftspeople in the Southwest who are not just making new Mulberry production, but are actually producing these incredible, beautiful repairs at the same time. And they are happening in parallel under the same roof in the Southwest. And again, we've been doing this for 35 years. We've been talking about it for 4 when we launched the Mulberry Exchange in 2020. And that was really when we launched our suite of circularity services, which included pre-loved and buyback, so you can take a Mulberry bag into any store and exchange it for credit towards your new purchase, or you can use that credit towards buying something pre-loved, either on mulberry.com or through the amazing kind of catalogue of unicorn bags that we have available to look at digitally in store as well. So that local community in Somerset, investing in those skills, our amazing apprentices, and the fact that that all happens in parallel with new production, I think is a way that brands can really look at their own circularity ambitions and figure out how to mould that into their businesses.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what I would say is, like, it's incredible to hear that that you guys have been doing it and been doing it for such a long time, because I think it does create kind of a path of how another brand can do it. What I would say that leads into the question you had before about size is, what we've found is talking to big brands is it is so hard to do anything because they're really big, and if you try and put anything on the product roadmap, it's already a kind of a year and a half of things they want to do, and website changes or CRM systems they want to move, and there's all these big projects and there's all these kind of big bottlenecks. And I think that's where the combination of small with large can really help, because actually startups have the luxury of, if we wanted to build a new feature tomorrow, we actually could, and if we want to build it next week, we actually could. And so you kind of combine the nimbleness, the innovation, the change, and the kind of the flexibility of an early stage company that also is only focusing on that one vertical, to then a big company that wants to explore that vertical. And what I would say is, obviously with SOJO as well, we have an incredible workforce of repairers who have an amazing work environment and really enjoy day in, day out repairing so many different types of clothing. And actually them and their decades of skill set can be just ultimately plug and played into a brand if they wanted to. And so they can say, if we wanted to access this repair service, it could be done in a matter of weeks instead of quarters or years even to set it up. And so I think that's where collaboration and connection, and I also think sometimes it's really hard to know how one can get it set up. And actually part of the pledge to repair as well is essentially creating like a key pathway to show a brand how you can implement. And that's so important because you can look at a brand and say, that's amazing what you've been doing, and you've been doing it for decades, and how do we get a piece of that? And so actually thinking, how can we create a kind of, it's a community, it's a coalition to say, we've done it this way, this is what works, this is our kind of data, this is how we fed back into circular design, and this is how you can do it too. So how can we think less about individual brands and individual partnerships and more about collective action and change and kind of collaboration?
I'm just going to thread that right through to you, Han, because I drafted that question also with you in mind and my knowledge of your previous collaborations with people like Christopher Rayburn, but also the shared ethos of community being at the heart of what you're doing. So I'd love to know just from you the work that you're doing with your atelier, how you bring in the community into your piece of
Sure.
circular.
Well, at Blackhorse we believe in transparency and open door policy, and connectivity is the most important pillar in the ethos of the company. What does that mean? We try to connect end user to their garments by giving them lifetime repair guarantee. What does that mean? We try to connect or encourage end user to connect with their garments emotionally. If you give somebody lifetime repair, what happens with that is more they use that garment, more they feel they own so many memories with it. So that's one element of it. The other element of Blackhorse, we have a pop-up restaurant within the space. Please come and see. So the reason we created a pop-up space within the textile machinery, we wanted to bring local people, local residents into the space so that they feel connected to the space. So we do that. On every weekend, we have that. We also work with local schools, universities. We just launched an R&D facility around garment washing. And with that, we work with really small, upcoming designers. And as you know, denim is an amazing blank canvas. You could do anything. And with denim, a bit like the leather, older it gets, better it becomes. And you could repurpose that any way, any shape. And we get some new designers where they bring us old second-hand denim fabrics, denim garments. We repurpose them, we laser them, we patch them. So allowing smaller designers to dream, to be able to produce in London. So we work with those kind of initiatives as well.
Brilliant, thank you. And so moving into the S, as I said, that's pretty much where I live in ESG. I'm coming back to you, Beth, because my next question, again, about culture, thinking about the humans, the talent pipeline, and the reality that we do need to kind of think about skills, upskilling, reskilling. And you've already mentioned the brilliant initiative Burberry have got already incentivizing through performance. If you have anything you'd like to share about where you feel, not so much the challenges are, but where you see the need for further investment or interest in that upskilling piece would be great.
Yeah, I think Burberry, it's a modern British luxury brand with a 168-year history. So like Mulberry, our trench coats are repaired back in Castleford, in Yorkshire, where they're made. But we operate on a global scale, and we offer our refresh and repair services in 33 different countries across 380 stores now. And it's finding the right skills and the right partners to be able to do that globally for all our customers. And a lot of the ideas for some of our services, especially our more recent services, have actually come from our teams. So we really champion our internal talent in our manufacturing sites, in our distribution hubs, and we recently launched a scarf refresh service where you can kind of upcycle your Burberry scarf if damaged or stained, etc. And the ideas and inspiration came from our personalization teams in our hubs, and we kind of honed in on their skills, developed them further, repair, and now we can offer that service. And then because we are global, we can work with our other teams around the world to kind of develop those skills there and then keep offering that services, and that's how we're trying to scale.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And then my last question, because I do know I have to be conscious of time, just thinking about scaling the repair culture piece, and I know for some of you, sick to death of the statistic, but 2019 we all had the report Fixing Fashion, which said from Ellen MacArthur Foundation, the UK recycled at the time less than 1% of its textiles waste. So this is not something that simply that we can say it's down to government. This has to be, as Caroline said, an ecosystem working together across the intersection of policy, corporate strategy, and consumer activism. So my last question to all of you, and please do input as you see fit, what measures, are your businesses taking around the community education piece, the behavioural change piece, in making this transition where adopting repair culture is seen as the norm? It's no longer seen as it's a trend. No, this is basic standard. So who'd like to go first? Go for it.
I think for SOJO, it's kind of easy because our whole business is obviously based around repair and repair culture. So every single bit of content or every single event or everything that we do is about trying to make it more mainstream. And I think also tech plays a really big part in that, because for me, when I initially was repairing, I found the process quite inconvenient and it wasn't as modernized or digitized in the same way other services are. So I think that's a really key part in ultimately changing culture. You have to make it so accessible. But also what I would say is we have tried to target that exactly with the launch of the Pledge to Repair here at the BFC IPF, and it's targeting 3 different categories. It's brands and calling for brand signatories to sign up to Pledge to Repair and launch repair for their customers. It is also for fashion professionals to sign and essentially say they're going to be advocating for repair in their businesses that they work for. And it's also calling on citizens to call for brands to do it, but also to pledge to repair themselves instead of replacing their item. So we're very much thinking it's not necessarily just the people on the app booking the repair, where we do one repair at a time, which is obviously impactful when you end up doing thousands and thousands of repairs. But actually, how can we look at brands and industry professionals and citizens and government and really all work together? That will change culture, not necessarily individual action. It's, as I say, collective action.
Thank you. Hans, just while we were sitting down, you said that you have a different answer to who you're talking to. But your daughters ask you what you do for a living. You say you're an activist. Could you speak a little bit to that and how you tie that into your...
Sure. I mean, I would say Blackhorse Lane is the byproduct of my life story. And with that, I set up Blackhorse Lane in a way too, as a company, we want to be the activist. So what that means is we want to be the devil's advocate and say what responsibility we take as company to change what we do. And very often people come to us and say, Blackhorse Lane is a sustainable brand. Let me tell you, Blackhorse Lane is not a sustainable brand. Nobody is sustainable. Let's have honest conversation. Because if anybody says that they are sustainable brands, I don't believe it. So number one, let's have honest conversations. Secondly, we do need regulations. But when you go to a supermarket, when you want to get yogurt or butter or whatever, there is a lovely explanation, the fat content, carbohydrate content. Why don't we put that on our labels? Cost of fabric, cost of labor, cost of profit. Why can't we have... Do you know Man in White film? Very, very interesting film, Man in White Suit. So 1960s, there was a film about British fabric making. This man invented this material where it doesn't get old, but also it doesn't get dirty. And every single mill tried to murder him because it's not great for the business. We need to change the business formula. Can you imagine a world where the healthy sign of the world is 3-4% of growth, but the resources in the world is limited. It cannot grow. We are diminishing. So activism is interesting, being honest with each other.
Honesty, I take
Honesty.
that. I take that.
And transparency.
Thank you. And then my next question, obviously on the same topic, goes to you, Beth. I know we had a mention upstairs about some of the work Burberry's been doing in donating dead stock to up-and-coming designers. Is there anything to that behavioural change piece where Burberry are being proactive?
Yeah, I mean, we donate a lot of excess material. I think we've donated to over 30 universities in the UK this year, and also worked with the British Fashion Council on their student competition, and I think some of the designs are here today that include that. So we're constantly looking at what can we do with our waste, what do we do with offcuts, and constantly working with universities to get to the next generation.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, I'm a big fan of all things regen agriculture. So I'm interested to know, from Mulberry's perspective, that behavioural change piece that we're talking about. Most consumers don't really understand that all of the things they wear really comes from the soil, whether it's the farms, the animals, or the cotton. What's your take, what's Mulberry's take on that storytelling piece of getting that communication onto the shop floor?
Yeah, that consumer mindset change is essential to any of our success in circularity. And I think that regardless of whether it's regenerative agriculture at the beginning of the supply chain or the finished goods at the end of the supply chain, we are the advocates for circularity. We are the ones working with our marketing and communications teams to get those messages out into our consumers' kind of brains, to start getting them to understand and be educated around all these topics. And I think there's something that we've really made a conscious effort to do in the last couple of seasons is weave in pre-loved items in all of our marketing campaigns. So we're not just shooting new seasonal products in studio or on location, but we're actually putting those pre-loved, one-of-a-kind pieces on there too, which, okay, that customer might not be able to buy that exact bag, but it opens up the conversation in store. Also, for the last 2 London Fashion Weeks, we've also collaborated with Stefan Cook, who reimagined some incredible pre-loved bags down in our factory. And yeah, there were some Friday afternoons when you walk through the factory and you think, Stefan and Jake are literally sat over there, taking apart bags, redesigning them and putting them back together. And then in 3 weeks' time, they are in our pop-up store in SOJO as part of their London Fashion Week show. And I just think that's the kind of essence of what we need circularity in fashion to be. It's the norm amongst the new. That sounded really corny, didn't it?
I see people writing that down, so I don't think it's that corny.
Yeah, so it's just kind of, like I said, we do it in production, we're doing it in our marketing. It's putting pre-loved with newness, because we need newness, because we have to have commercial businesses, but it's making sure that circularity is woven in as something that's normal every day.
I'd just add to that and say that we found that a partnership can absolutely not be successful. Repair cannot be successful without the buy-in from marketing. And that's a baseline, because if the repair service exists but no one knows about it, it's completely mute. So getting the marketing team behind it is absolutely crucial. They have to invest in putting it forward to their customer in the same way they're putting forward new things. But more than that, I also think if we're talking about repair culture, it needs to be within the organization itself in terms of like a multi-stakeholder level. So the designers need to care about repair feeding back into circular design, and the e-com team need to care about where it is and how a customer can see it when they're buying it initially. And you've got the marketing team and obviously the circularity team, but also the commercial team. How is it driving loyalty? How is it, driving customers to come back because they know they can get a repair service? And I think making sure that culture exists in wider society, but also within the business itself, and get stakeholders like the CEO involved is where it can actually, move forward.
Well, I think that's a perfect place to put down my mantle, because storytelling obviously is where the journalists come into it, and I'm not just here to ask questions. I fully put my hand up to say I know my role in this too. So I wanted to thank my panelists for your honesty, for your time, for generosity, and bearing with me as we put this together. And I think I'm handing it back now. So
Yeah, thanks so much. Big round of applause for our panelists.